hope that all of you know my name because
Who are you?
I was just here less than a year ago. Okay, well, it's good to be back. I'm excited to be here to talk about visionary leadership. Does that mic work? We'll make this side?
That's what they're talking about, dude.
Oh, I didn't see. I thought you were talking about this one.
No, they both work. They both work.
Bend it over and give it.
Oh, thank you. That's much better. Okay, get a little bit of a mellow feel here. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about visionary leadership. I have all my notes on my phone, so if I keep looking down at my phone, that's why I don't think I'm like texting while I'm trying to talk to y'all as well, because I cannot multitask that well. But one of the biggest things we're going to talk about is how vision is an essential component in effective leadership. So you can be a leader, you can be a visionary, but when you put the two together, you're pretty dynamic. And so to begin, when I was the lead chairman, I always tried to include the lead pioneer quote, because not only did you get to hear about a really cool quote, you maybe learned about a cool person. And this lovely individual with the mustache of the ages, one that I'm quite envious of myself, is Oliver Wendell Holmes, who was a former Associate Justice of the Supreme Court from 1902 to 1932. Doesn't he look so like warm and welcoming and you just want to be his best friend, like grab a beer or something, unless you're below the age of 21, of course, y'all never do that. But he said, I find the great things in this world is not so much where we stand, but in what direction we're moving. So I feel like that quote really sums up about what we're talking today. So we're going to do something that's called a vision audit, okay? So I was hoping to get a hold of a printer before I got here, and it just didn't happen. So I'm just going to read a couple of questions, and very rhetorical questions. So after I read it, just kind of answer like yes or no in your head, or you can pull out like your notes app on your phone, something like that to keep your spot. But there's just a few questions here, and I just want you to answer yes or no in your head after I read it. So the first one, is there evidence of confusion on purpose? So an example of that is like, are there frequent disagreements among the members of the chapter about what you guys should be doing? Okay, is there confusion on that? Number two, do brothers and officers complain about insufficient challenges? Yes or no in your head. Do brothers say they no longer enjoy being members of the chapter? Are brothers pessimistic about the future or cynical about the present? Is your chapter losing its good reputation? Is your organization holding on to traditions that are not helping the chapter? Are there signs of a decline in pride within your organization? Do members continually resist change? There's a couple more questions to you, but this just kind of gets the gist. So if you answer to yes to 2 or 3 more, you're probably in an environment where there's a lot of discord about where the vision of the organization lies. And so that's not necessarily the best of things. Okay? But before we move on, just a show of hands, has anybody like this year, or like as long as you've been involved in this organization, have y'all ever heard someone say like everything's fine, like there's nothing that needs to be changed? Just a show of hands. No? Yes? Well, that's great. I think that no one's hearing that or saying that because in organizations like our fraternity, change is almost necessary and vital to stay alive and afloat. We can't just be content and complacent because complacency equals death. Okay? I feel like that's something that we really preached on when y'all were kind of coming through during your pledge class. Okay? So, I think unfortunately a lot of people, they're very acceptable. They like to accept the status quo. They're comfortable in the status quo. But then again, people like fraternities, we can't just be okay with the status quo. We have to continuously challenge ourselves in order to better. Okay, so before we can really go further into like an organizational vision, we have to talk about personal vision. Okay? We're going to talk about the nature of vision. And do you like my little picture with like a little nature scene? Bringing the outdoors indoors. Thank you. I am a biologist at heart. Okay, so I want everyone to close their eyes. Close your eyes. Reflect back to when you were 7 years old, which was like 2 days ago for some of y'all. Okay? Reflect back to when you were 7. When you were 7, what did you want to be when you grew up? Okay, so I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. Does everybody kind of feel like they remember? Or are they still thinking? Y'all remember? Okay, so I'll start. When I was 7 years old, I had the unfathomable inspiration of being an NBA professional basketball player. Heck to the yeah. I was going to be in the NBA. I was going to be Kobe's best friend. Me and LeBron were going to be Snapchat buddies. Like, that was my goal when I was 7. Okay, so I want like one or two of y'all to tell me what y'all wanted to be when you were 7.
I feel like
An astronaut.
An astronaut?
Yeah.
Really? I love that. Okay, we got astronaut, NBA player. Somebody over here.
I think I remember wanting to be a pastor. That's pretty funny now.
A pastor. When you grew up in the Bible Belt. Yeah. So we've got an astronaut, a pastor, NBA player. Anybody else just want to share anything of it?
I feel like I wanted to be like in the WWE.
WWE.
Yeah, I feel like I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I wanted to beat up John Cena.
I got you. Well, we need to introduce you to Dylan Lanier because I think that's basically what he's aspiring to. Okay, so all right. So we're kind of, if y'all answered, y'all had an answer to it. We're kind of getting a little bit, y'all understand what the personal vision is. But now I want you to close your eyes again, okay? And I want you to think about what you're going to be doing 10 years from now, okay? So 10 years from now. And a couple of other questions in that. Where are you going to be living? Okay, what kind of job are you going to have for 10 years from now? What kind of relationships will you have 10 years from now? What will your family be like 10 years from now? And what will you be involved in with your free time 10 years from now? A few more questions on that one, just when you were 7. Okay, so hopefully y'all were able to come up with some sort of answer for this. But again, I'll start. So right now, I am 23, going on 24 here shortly. And 10 years from now, I'm hoping to have graduated my master's and my doctoral degree. You're supposed to be back here, aren't you?
I'm a
Get
junior.
your ass in
No.
I'm a junior, bitch.
This is your second year of
Go
college.
and get your nursing
Nah.
school ass in here.
Nah,
Anyways, he just missing out. So 10 years from now, I'm really hoping to have a couple degrees, have a lot of experience under my belt, education-wise, teaching in the field, so that one day I can teach future educators. So I've always really loved education. I've always really loved college, and I really want to end up back here as like a professor. And I don't really care about where I live. I would like to live somewhere that has some sort of civilization to it. I don't want to live in butt nowhere. Sorry. Yeah. Family, there's a lot of things that go into that. So does anybody have any answers for some of those questions for me? 10 years from now? Seth looks like he has some really, I can just see you here just grinding.
I'll probably be working as a loan officer still,
Okay.
and I'll be back home in 2 years.
Blue Ridge?
Yep.
Blue Ridge, Georgia.
Maybe 7 years.
Okay. What about what kind of relationships and family? Anybody, yeah?
I'll be 30 in 10 years, so I'll probably want to have a baby.
You want to have a baby by then?
Yeah. Sweet.
Okay, so also have family. What about things you're going to be involved in your free time? 10 years from now. Probably the same shit I was
So the same thing I'm doing right now.
I was going to say, hopefully you all graduate and can be a part of the alumni chapter like me.
That's not
Okay.
all what I was getting at.
So,
You supposed to be booing, don't you?
we'll get it. We're going to get it there. Okay. So, if you had answers to the questions, you probably already have a pretty good concept of like what a vision is. Okay, like a vision for yourself is. So, why do you think it's important for the chapter to have a vision? So we don't get Andrew Barry's presidency again. Okay.
kind of allows us to set goals. It allows us to like set goals to work towards something.
Okay, so we can allow us to set goals. Okay. It can maybe help us prevent repeating maybe some past mistakes. I kind of heard that. What anybody else? Anybody else got anything? Okay. That's right, we're gonna break it down. But one thing thing to remember is that most people don't take enough time to actually carefully look at these visions for themselves or for the things that they're a part of. Okay? So in order for this ship, which is Significant JSU, to successfully sail, and not only sail, get more members so the boat sails faster and more successfully, we have to have a really thorough vision that is detailed, that is receptive to a lot of people. Okay? So here's a little quote too. So as Bert Namus, I think is how you say his name, he's the author of the book Visionary Leadership, so I figure he's probably the expert on this more than anybody. There is no more powerful engine driving an organization towards long-term excellence and success than an attractive, worthwhile, and achievable vision of the future. Okay? So how would you define vision? Yes.
The way you view things around you.
Okay, so kind of how you receive your environment and I guess like your social area. See that? Pierce, how would you define vision?
I'd say direction we're going.
Okay, so having some sort of direction where you're not going. Both of those are excellent answers, but there's really like two major ones that I guess are deemed the best. I don't know if you want to call it that. But the first one is it's an ideal state of an organization. So this ideal state of what the organization will look like when it reaches the next level. Because we kind of set goals for ourselves. We want to achieve that next level. Once we get there, we want to achieve that next level, so forth and so on. It's kind of a continuous cycle. The second one is a vision is an idea or image of a better or more desirable future for an organization. I think as leaders within the fraternity, you not only want to have a vision for your current success, but you want to have a vision that others that come to follow can be successful and build off of what you've done. Okay? So there's also a couple of things that visions actually are not. Okay? So, one of my little favorite actors here. No, sir. So a vision is not feel-good quotes. So many leaders understand the powerful effects of the vision process. They can have on the organization the visioning process is a public relations exercise. So image and language can be really important, but at the end of the day, a vision isn't just feel-good words. Like we're not just like fluffing up something that's going to be the future. Like, oh, we're going to be really rich one day, and everyone's going to have all the things they want in this fraternity, and all that good stuff. It's not feel-good words. Okay. The second thing it's not is a mission. Okay. So they kind of sound synonymous, I think, when we try to break them down, but a vision isn't a mission. Okay. So to state that an organization has a mission is to say its purpose, not necessarily its vision. Mission is a statement of those core principles and answers the questions why we're here. Vision, on the other hand, it kind of imagines how that mission will be fulfilled in the future. So like we have a mission, we know what we want to do, and our vision is what allows us to adapt to that mission down the road, and we continually, again, that cycle, we're continuously sticking to that. And then third, a mission is not a goal or strategic planning. So, kind of like visions, our strategies or, strategic planning, they kind of offer a future state that is going to be different than our current situation. Okay? They're kind of synonymous in that way, but they're a little bit different in that a strategic plan offers a systematic, like chronological strategy for getting to point A to point B into the future. Okay? This includes like objectives, whereas a vision is just like a mindset. But there's a lot of things that we can use to define visions, or we can use to describe what a good vision has. Okay, and so let's talk about those. So the first one is realistic. I think our more intellectually and politically inclined brothers will really get this, is that a vision can't be something that's super idealistic. Like a vision could be like, our vision is to one day have this huge house on Frat Row with 100 brothers who all pay on time and have 4.0 GPAs. That's not very realistic, because a lot of us who come to JSU, we work full time to pay for our degrees, which sometimes takes away from having that perfect GPA. We don't come from affluent families. Most of the more affluent families, richer kids typically go to much bigger universities. You know, and I don't necessarily think having a house on the road is really all that attractive. So, you know, we have to make it realistic. The second thing is we have to make it descriptive and rich in detail. We have a mission that's just kind of haphazardly put together. Nobody's going to be able to buy into that. You know, if you have a lot of detail, a lot of descriptions, people can follow that almost chronologically, like an experiment or, you know, directions on a map on how to get somewhere. So it's also got to be appropriate for the organization and times. So a vision that could be deemed inappropriate would be like, oh, we're going to sneak a bunch of girls in and we're going to put them in scandalous outfits and serve drinks to the players. That sort of thing. It's not appropriate. It's not of the times. We are much more civilized than that. Just as an example. Our visions are also going to establish a standard of excellence. Okay, I think all of y'all can really buy into that. That we really want to push ourselves to be, you know, better, bigger, faster, stronger, smarter. Okay, we don't want to just be the everyday guy. You know, we're seeing news. Okay, we also want to have something that inspires enthusiasm. We don't want something that's just kind of like mundane and boring and, oh, our vision is to have a 4.0 GPA and that's it. Like, we want to have a vision that has a plethora of ideas that all sorts of personalities and different people can buy into. Right? You get that? And then lastly, it's got to be easily understood. So, you know, if you have a really complex vision that not everyone can understand, that's going to be hard for those individuals who are having a harder time understanding to really buy into it and invest into it. Okay? So now, we're going to do an activity. Woohoo! Yeah. All right, I can feel the excitement in the air right now. Okay? So what I'm going to have you do is y'all are going to be in pairs. Okay? So Seth and Pierce are a pair. Okay? Carter's $20. Okay? So I want Seth and Carter to come here. Okay? Shake.
So we know how to do it too.
Hey, y'all can't list your partner seeds, okay? Yeah. No! Yeah. You get this with sheets. You get this. Okay. Alright, so the activity here is you and your partner have to sit back to back. Okay? So go ahead and sit back to back in some sort of way or fashion.
Back to back.
And you have to, so the people with the templates, okay, which is Seth and Ricardo, y'all are what we call the ones. Tony and Pierce are the twos, okay? So our ones have to describe how to create an exact replica of those shapes to the twos. So you kind of have to get the descriptory language in order to replicate the exact shapes on that page in the exact like formation, where they're at on the page, their orientations, all that. Okay, y'all understand? But twos cannot look at the template. Y'all can't show or like draw for them. You have to talk to them. Okay, y'all ready? Does everybody understand? Sweet. I'm going to give y'all like 5 minutes. And go.
Alright, and then you go
Wait.
there is a roughly, like it's a little bit down from the corner, but it's still in the corner. The top left corner. Where it's like 2 inches off. Yeah, like a 2 inch.
Look at that before.
So it's not going to be straight up and down, it's going to be side to side. Okay, and then in the top right corner, you're going to draw a 6-sided figure.
Okay.
A 6-sided figure.
And roughly
A 6-sided
a
figure.
couple inches below
In
that,
shape that is a
so
6-sided figure.
like directly below that, then a triangle that's roughly the same size as the square.
Well, that's kind of off, okay, and then to the left of that
And then
is going
we'll
to
say
be a
a
4-sided
couple
figure.
inches to the left,
With
to the right of the square. It's almost in the middle, but it's kind of like to the twice the length of what the square is, and the width of it is half of the square.
Okay, yeah.
To the left of that
Square top,
hexagon
and then
is
double
a
width
rectangle.
of
It's
the
kind of big.
Okay.
And then like
directly
directly,
somewhere
I think I did
in the
mine.
third of the page.
directly below the rectangle. So like,
Okay, and then to the left of the
a couple more
rectangle.
inches below
Even
the
like
rectangle,
Yeah.
there's a circle.
Shade.
And
I forget the actual name
it's
of it.
around the same size as the
Oh,
square,
okay.
square triangle.
I mean, it looks like a wedge. It looks like a snow cone or like a pizza slice. Like,
Okay.
And then to the right of the circle, which is like,
So-
I guess about an inch away,
this
There
next
is
shape that's below
a
the cone.
trapezoid that's turned onto
Is
its
like-
right side.
Oh, okay.
So like the
It's
top of the
if you
trapezoid
drew
would be
a
facing
sigma
the right
backwards.
side.
And then put a line.
I was gonna say, you should have the trapezoid.
Trapezoid. The lines
It's
together.
It looks like a Pizza Hut hat.
Okay, yeah. I remember what
It
happened.
kind of looks like a
Yeah.
pound or two.
Wait, how big is it?
It's essentially like the same size
it's below
as
that
the rest
cone.
of the shape.
So, like, the
So,
sigma-
the same general size.
The sigma's backwards, so like it's facing
It's like-
towards, I guess like the opening is facing towards the rectangle.
And it's kind of like, the circle's kind of like directly in the middle, so like you would.
Oh, it's directly, okay.
If you went to, no, if you
So
went,
it's like,
you went
it's
to
really like
the right of the
an
circle.
M and drew it at an angle and
And
then
it's
full
kind
line
of turned up on
connected
the side.
the two ends.
Wait,
together.
what?
Yeah, it's tilted up on the side.
And then the next space, the diamond is at a 45-degree angle. Like,
Okay, and then
right
top
beside
right corner,
that
there
fucking weird figure
is,
that I described to you,
a,
and under,
a
and in
diamond,
between the rectangle
which is
and the
more of
hexagon.
like, it's
Is
a
it squished or square?
Not, it's diamond.
It's a, it's,
So it's like at 45-degree
it's
angle.
more of a parallelogram.
So,
So it's like it's like the two diagonal lines, and then like this, yeah, basically this
So under
square.
that weird
Okay.
fucking two
And
crown
it's
shape
not right.
thing,
Yeah, it's kind of like
it's
the
like
same
an
kind of
oval. I'm trying to see where you're
area
at.
as
I'm
the
not looking
square.
at
No,
what
you're
it
not,
looks
it's
like.
not allowed to look at my page.
I'm trying to look back so you can hear me.
No, shut up.
So under the weird little
okay.
two
Okay.
mountain thing that I drew, you're gonna go
We
like
compare
over
that.
like
Is that all?
it's like a board, like an opening or portal.
Is that all?
Under that,
Huh? Really?
and then the last
Yeah, you
shape,
can compare.
huh?
Oh, shit.
Long ways.
Wait. Oh, I thought you
Real
were,
done.
that's not a square, bro.
That's a
And then
parallelogram.
Oh, I said square.
the last shape,
Oh,
and it's
that's like
under
a
the
square, so that's
hexagon.
squished it.
Yeah, my scale was too small. And that was supposed to be over there. Well, other than
That's
that,
essentially right.
I guess it's like a row phone.
Not
Or
bad.
like a block C.
Yeah,
It's not bad.
like a backwards block C.
Where is it?
Below, under the hexagon, so
The
like the
only
bottom
thing that
right page,
trapezoid.
bottom right page.
Yeah.
It's like
But
a
the
block
space-
C backwards.
Backwards?
Yeah, block.
Yeah. And then when you finish, tell me up from there.
Was theirs just shapes too?
Huh?
Oh, those are hard shapes.
Yeah.
I should have gave Matt some hard ones too. I should have gave you the hard ones.
These are normal shapes. These are like,
I should have given you one miles. I really went for it. I should have given you like this one.
I did the same thing with this, except.
Okay.
I mean, it's not bad.
Now what does this prove?
He says, so what does this
Diamond,
prove?
bro.
What have we proved?
That's a freaking rhombus.
Potato, potato.
No, this is
pass
a
down the
diamond.
digits.
Alright.
You're gonna
So-
put it
No. Hopefully that was a little fun. We got a few reflection questions for y'all. So who are my ones? Y'all remember who the ones were? Seth, Ricardo. I've got like one or two questions for you. So what was it like giving instructions to your partner?
You need visual instruction.
Okay.
Because like you can get the general idea, but you don't really know how big or how far apart things need to be.
I feel like it's kind of one of those things where you can't really, if you want to get somewhere with your vision, you can't really work alone, and you can't really give it off to somebody and be like, this is my vision, achieve it. you kind of have to work alongside with them. It's not a one-man job.
Sweet. Those are both really great answers. Okay, so here's the next one. Did you feel as if your partner understood the vision for what you were asking him to draw, and why?
No, and a lot of that has to do with it was difficult describing some of these shapes.
Okay. Yeah. So sometimes it's difficult to. Sometimes it's hard for us to really verbalize what we're envisioning. Sometimes. And that's something we have to
Yeah,
work
I've heard them
together.
say portal, and I was like, what?
I know what an oval is.
Portal.
A portal.
Like portal.
Okay, so did you understand how the team was progressing during the activity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did? No? It's okay. You got it.
It fluctuated.
Progress is progress.
So how can you relate this experience to being a leader in the chapter? Very two-dimensional experience.
I would say, I'll put it from my own perspective as being treasurer. It's like whenever people ask about the finances and I tell them, and they're like, that didn't answer my question. I'm like, well, it did. You don't know until I have to like show it to you. So it's like a visual thing.
Yeah. Maybe like establishing some sort of visual that you bring a chapter every week, so it answers people's questions without even have to ask you or something like that. Yeah, I get you on that one for sure. Okay, so my number twos, Tony and Pierce. What was it like having to be the artist?
Confusing.
Just vibing and drawing. Yeah. So confusing. Okay, so why was it confusing?
Because I didn't know, like, I just didn't know where they were. Like, when he was trying to tell me, like, oh, this is the shape, but I didn't know what exactly he meant. Like, I don't know.
Okay, so how did you feel about your role in this activity? How did you feel, Stinky?
I don't even know what to say.
You were just having fun. Just having fun draw.
It felt hard. It felt difficult to understand what he was trying to say.
So, it was difficult to understand the thing that he was envisioning and to like exactly replicate that. Was it a little bit like pressure there?
I wanted to do it perfect, but I was asking all the questions about everything on my things, and I still got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having fun.
So, how did you feel about your partner's instructions? Were they overall good? Bad?
Oh, bad.
Bad?
Yeah.
Okay. Pierce?
The second surface was pretty good, but we had unique shapes.
Gotcha. Okay, so last one for the T's. How can you relate this experience to being a member in the chapter?
I would say, like, it kind of shows you that you need to communicate to get that bigger picture, like communicate it out, and being at like leadership needs to be able to give all around like cohesive picture of what's going on.
That's cohesive. That's a great word. So,
I mean, the only thing I can relate to, like, in my personal position is, like, when I try to make the tour chart, I have a small amount of room just so, like, sweep or not, and generally clean up. It's like, I'd rather if I could be more descriptive with it, I would, but it's easier for everyone to see it summed up and just, like, clean up the bathroom, clean up the front kitchen.
yeah.
But if I could, it'd be a lot more helpful for me, I guess, for the people doing the tours to be able to read that and know what I mean when I say
Maybe you could talk about the secondary document that says suite and like what that actually looks like on the document to the right.
yeah.
So they can sign off on that one, but then they have another document that's like, okay, where's this actually tell? So they can expand on what we already are doing. So this is really great. So this is for the entire group. So did y'all feel like y'all were successful in replicating?
I think so.
You think so? It don't matter where we're at for success.
I mean, the location's off, but I think we got it I'd give it a C,
Yeah.
like a 7.
Let's see. Okay, let me see.
These get degrees.
I mean,
If we just
Yeah.
like pretend like this is my.
if that was maybe how much y'all see, y'all don't really just think
Our
it's gonna
scale was a little bit off.
Y'all's was pretty close. You know. Yeah,
Fuck this up.
Travis Wood is in the wrong direction, and this was a little bit more slanted. So we're all good. So what would have made this activity a lot easier?
Visual aid.
Visual aid, yeah? Okay, that would make it a heck of a lot easier. So what kind of things did you take for granted or make assumptions about during this activity?
Thought. Sight.
Hmm?
Sight.
Sight, okay.
Detail.
Vision.
Detail,
That word.
vision, wow, good one, good one.
Understanding.
Understanding, okay. Some of the examples they included was like the scale. Like some people didn't think about the scale as much, or like the orientation on the page and stuff like that. Okay. So hopefully y'all got something out of this. So one last thing, how does this activity relate back to the chapter? Like overall.
Good communication is very important.
Okay. Good communication is very important.
I think as far as like, I think I'm speaking more as far as the leader's perspective. If you can't create or communicate like a very clear vision, then it's just going to be so hard to get people on board with that.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be the most extravagant thing in the world. Like one thing that they were telling us at Closet Chapter is like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to remake it in your own way.
So is the leader simply giving instructions to members on how to fulfill the vision, and how to fulfill the vision in the most effective way to reach the vision? So are they just giving instructions just for members to fulfill the vision?
I feel like if they're going to do that and they're not going to be a visual aid with it, then they need to be as prescriptive as possible. That's
Yeah.
the key.
Well, I think, speaking on that, I think leaders are going to be the ones who show, lead by that example. They're not just the one with the title telling people to do this. It's, we're in this together, sort of visionary leadership. So really good job, guys. Hopefully that was a little fun. There's not a lot of y'all. So now we're going to keep moving on to the values, which are the core of your chapter. So everyone sees an apple core up here, right? So what is at the core of an apple?
The core.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of cyanide in there.
So, so the seeds are in the core, and what do the seeds contain?
Cyanide.
Cyanide, which is a phytochemical that is quite poisonous in high concentrations. You can kill someone with cyanide.
Wait, if you ate the apple core, you don't die?
No, you would have to eat like 60 seeds in a concentrate in order to. But
Damn.
it does have cyanide in it, and cyanide is a type of poison to our bodies. So, but apples are actually quite delicious on the outside, right? So sometimes organizations can look really, really neat and welcoming on the outside looking in, but then when you get to their core values, it's really just nothing but poison, okay? So it's really important that as an organization, you don't only understand your vision, but you understand how your vision is supported by values, okay? And what those values stand for. So, real quick, I was supposed to split you up into 3 groups, but there's only 4 of y'all. I think we can just do this as a group. So, what we're going to be doing here is completing the sentences, okay? So we have 3 sentences that kind of want to work together to complete, okay? The first one is, a good member is one who, blank, you can finish that. It is important that our chapter, blank, y'all finish that sentence. And then lastly, the greatest legacy I can leave the chapter when I graduate is, okay? So y'all brainstorm a little bit. Y'all can either talk to each other, y'all can think about it to yourself, but I want some really good completed sentences here in a few seconds. So if y'all already like the leisure, see when the answer is, or just be finished to go home, I don't know. Maybe we should. Okay, does anybody have any? Who wants to go for the first one? A good member is one who wants.
No.
You got one?
Yeah. A good member is someone that contributes and like makes like worthwhile contributions, not just any contribution.
Okay. So a good member is someone who is contributing, consistently. A very consistent contribution.
Well, it's more like what are you contributing? Because there's a lot of people that do contribute to a group, and what they're contributing is
Okay.
exactly what the group needs. It needs to be like what. There was
Like
a
the
word, there
value
was a
of what you're
word that I
contributing.
had, and I lost the word, and I was trying to like, I don't know. I can't
Try to be
remember.
fancy with it. Yeah, I get it.
Variable. Yeah, so like what you're contributing can vary. So you're not always giving the same thing all the time.
I got you. So having a little bit more of like a variety of what you're contributing, not just like the one singular thing. I got you. Yeah. That's a really great thing. Anybody else? No? That was a great fill in the blank there. Okay, so number 2. It is important that our chapter blanks. Who would like to go for that one? Pierce, I just, you're over there really thinking man pose.
Very open-ended one. I'd say it's important that your chapter adapts to meet goals.
Okay. That's great though. No, adaptability is like one of the number one qualities you really want in a fraternal organization. So it is important that our chapter adapts to meet goals, that meets that vision that we've set for ourselves and, meets that course and continue to go on. Anybody else want to add? There's no wrong answers here, unless I say so. Tom.
It's important that the chapter changes with the environment around it. The school's policies are changing, and it's probably a good idea that we also change our bylaws if that entails necessary change.
I gotcha. No, that's really great. We've got adaptability. We've also got to be like, we've got to be educated on our environment and how the social structure is taking place. Because we don't want to violate, rules, procedures, or policies, and we also want to be more inclusive and opening to the changes of our society. So those are both really great. So the last one, the greatest legacy I can leave the chapter when I graduate is.
Greatest legacy I can leave the chapter when I leave is probably being able to provide everybody the feeling of being not only belonging but also having a purpose in everything that they do. Some people that can be a struggle, especially coming to college, not knowing what you want to do. And I feel like Sigma Nu has a really great opportunities to be able to discover yourself.
It's really great. If it were me doing the very last one, on top of what you said, the greatest legacy I can leave the chapter when I graduate is knowing that I did a job well done, and that I'm going to continue to do a job well done. Because after you graduate in 4 years, 3 years, however long it is, it doesn't stop. It's not just completely over. Like, you're part of this thing for life. And so not only do you want to try to do the best you can while you're in college, you're still reflective of Sigma Nu even after. So that's something really important to remember, and also something to really look forward to. And so the alumni chapter, we're really hoping to get something more active pretty soon. So by the time that y'all graduate, it's going to be something that's really thriving. It's going to be a really awesome network and product. Okay. All right, so the very last one, there's a bunch of questions. This was like a worksheet that they wanted me to print out and give to you and fill out and all this good stuff. But what I would like for you to do is take a picture of these questions on your phone, and this is something that you can reflect on when you have the time. During chapter meetings, or when you're thinking about where you want the chapter to be, these are really good questions to ask yourself or to ask the executive committee if you're not on it already. You know, sitting down and having conversations with Jarrett, the commander, or maybe even some alumni, and what the vision was for them while they were here, and then comparing it to where we're at now and the vision that we have set for the future. So these are all very thought-provoking. They can be personal, they can be for the organization. It's kind of driven more towards the chapter as a whole. But you can also like rewrite the question in your head to make it more personal. So there's a lot of personal development that can take place with having these questions in your artillery or your arsenal. Okay? All right, so that is the end. Thank y'all for being the courteous audience that you were and for actively participating. I hope y'all learned a little bit today. It was also